and we did it clockwise, and it's 0.7 of a mile to get up 1,000 feet, and then once you've made it when you see those little white and gray birds all start appearing.
Oh yeah.
If there's one place in the whites where it's most consistent that I've seen gray jays, it's on the Hancocks.
Yeah, and then Mount Jackson too, right?
Jackson, yeah, Mizpah Hut, and on Pierce as well.
How are the birds looking these days? Are they looking a little endomorphic, or are they looking
so fat?
Oh, see, that's so sad to me. Like initially when I first encountered them, I fed them like everybody else does. But now that I think about it, damn, poor birds.
All right. Do you have your Bible out?
Yes, I do. Is this confession?
Please, Lord, forgive me. I had. So Mark has never seen the gray jays. So I had.
So he gets a waiver.
Yeah. So I had a little bird food, and I did. I agree with you. Like, we shouldn't be feeding them, but
it's starting to show.
It's my Disney princess moment, Stomp.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try not to give them too much, just enough to get them to get in my hand. So what they do with this food is I'm not leaving. I guess to leave no trace. Don't come at me. But they take this food, and my understanding is that they cache the food, like they'll wrap it in saliva, and then they stick it. It's like sticky. They stick it to the back of a tree, and then they have food for the whole winter to make it through.
Amazing. Well, they found their little niche.
Yeah, they did. So I'm sure that there's a never-ending debate about like don't feed the gray jays, and generally I don't, but I did. Sorry.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stump.
Rolling.
All right, Stomp, I appreciate you joining me tonight. It was 50-50 whether I thought you were gonna join us.
Yeah. I hear you, man. It's been hit or miss with me. I'm still pretty sick at the moment, but getting better.
Have you finally been able to confirm that it's not the flu and it's really COVID?
Actually, I did a couple tests and they were positive, so it's been quite the saga over here.
Yeah.
It's funny. The first 2 tests were negative, and then this has been like a 2.5 week ordeal right now. And then I did one last week, and I did one early this week for my snowmobile guiding, and came up positive. And now I got to do one tomorrow. It's like really putting a kink in things, man.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks. I mean, all of January was a wash for me because of it.
Yeah,
the whole month.
Oh yeah, and I'm exhausted too. I saw you got out, and we can talk about what I did. I did get out a little bit, but it's been very tiring. Fatigue.
Yeah, so if you haven't got COVID, listeners, I was knocked out for 3 days, and then even after that, like for a full week, I had no energy, and then the second I got over that hump, then the cough kicked in. So me and you we'll probably both be coughing the whole time, right?
Oh, no question about it. I'll have to do some fancy editing.
I'll be hitting the mute button quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm assuming this was Omicron because it was bronchial. It wasn't in my lungs. It was just all sinus and upper throat. So that's a good thing, but
and it feels
potent.
The cough is like right at the very bottom of your throat, right?
Yeah, never ending.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah. They cooked up a good one, huh?
It's brutal. Yeah. You know what? You may notice this. Like I have a little bit of like smoke coming around me. Like I have a humidifier. When I go to bed at night, I literally stick that thing, and my wife's pissed because I'll like flail around and I like knock the humidifier on the ground and everything's soaking wet. But get a humidifier and like stick that thing in front of your face. So
yeah,
it'll make you feel better. So if anyone's listening and they got COVID, like just slap that humidifier right in front of your face.
Yeah, that helps a lot for sure. We've been putting like the boiling water on top of the wood stove. Wood stove's a nightmare without boiling water, man. It just gets
it's so dry,
overwhelmingly dry. It's incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah, so we're trying to use our wood, like save some cash on the natural gas, but it's like feast or famine. Like, man.
Yeah, well, this will be a quick one. We'll let you go to bed because I know I feel a lot better now. I'm back to 100%, but
yeah.
I get it. It was tough, so we'll do this quick.
Yeah, no rush.
So we got a couple of notes here. You go first with yours. So yours, the note that you put down here was funny chaga pic and listener comment.
Yeah. There was that funny picture that Jimmy Chaga posted about a license plate, and it said Chaga. And a listener sent in a comment, and I'll figure I'll just read it quickly. She goes, years ago, some dude caught up to me and a friend below the chimney on Osceola. He tried to sell us, quote, $1,000 worth of chaga. And then after learning we were apprehensive about the icy chimney, he ripped my axe out of my hand and sent it straight up the chimney and tossed it back down to me. Guy was hilarious, but not gonna lie, kind of freaked me and my buddy out. Haha. My memory is hazy, but he kind of looked like that dude. What are the chances this random encounter was the Jimmy Chaga?
I wouldn't be surprised because that would have been right around so it was a few years ago. That would have been right around the time where Jimmy was going all out on winter 4,000 footers and stuff.
It's possible, but that sounds like out of character for Jimmy, just being
you think?
Sort of rude like that, or
yeah, I guess.
A little sketchy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll
have to ask him. So anyway, all right. Well, I have a story I wanted to throw in the show openers here. So we're going to do a deep dive on a hike that I did on the Hancock. So we'll do a little segment. So I won't get into too much detail. But Mark Lindenberg, so Knobbie Hikes, he's been on a couple of episodes with us. I met him. So we get out of the car, right in the parking lot. We start walking. First thing he says, because he must have been listening to a couple of, like, old shows or something. Yeah. And he's like, I listened to the podcast. And he's like, you know what I wanted to ask you? And I was like, immediately, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, I was thinking about it. And I was like, oh boy, he's going to start giving me feedback. I don't want to hear it. So he's like, you always say this thing about like show notes. And he's like, what does that mean? And I was like, and it hit me. I was like, there's probably like 12 or 15 boomers that listen to this show that have no idea what we mean when we say show notes.
Yeah. They're key too. They're so full of information.
Yeah. So because Knobbie had no idea. No clue, which that's on brand for him, I think.
Yeah, well, today I got a couple of requests for the show notes because I was posting about the hiking pole study, and people were like, "Where are the show notes?" So that was today.
Yeah. So I wanted to at first I was like, it's just Knobbie that's on brand for him that he wouldn't know what the show notes are. But then I was like, well, maybe there's probably other people that don't know. So if you're looking for, whenever we say show notes, when we post the show, whether you get it on Apple or Spotify, or you get it, if you get it through Facebook or YouTube, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know anything about that. But other than we post them there. But if you want to get the show notes, just scroll down a little bit and you'll see there's links with all the stuff that we talk about. And then if you go to the SLASRpodcast.com, SLASR podcast.com, and you click on any of the shows, you can scroll down on the front page and get to any of the shows. Just double click on the shows and you can you get all those show notes. I am going to, over the summer, I'm going to hire an intern. Which I don't know exactly who that is. I think it's going to be my kid. But I'm going to hire an intern to basically consolidate all the show notes into categories so that they're accessible. But we'll get there.
So it'll be like Slashopedia.
Yes, exactly. And
excellent.
I'll probably get around to it at the same time I get around to merchandise, which I'm still working on. But anyway. So here's the other thing. So then he goes on to so first of all, he doesn't know what show notes are. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to judge him too hard. And I was like, I'll do a PSA. Then he's like, you know what you guys should do? He's like, when you have guests on, you should really read about them and do research and read all their books and really know about them when you get. What? And I was like, Mark, are you saying we're not doing our homework?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. He's like, but you should just read all their books and really, really research them. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, interesting.
I was like, I'll tell Stomp.
I think we do our best.
Yeah, I was like, I've read anybody that's been on. I read their books. I don't know.
Yeah, you do the best you can. Laugh. I think interviewing is interesting, and you do a pretty decent job. I'm pretty new at the game, but it's a challenge for sure. But hey, all right, Knobbie, we will do our best.
Yeah, we're working on upping our game for you. The same guy that couldn't remember the Cohos Trail.
Yes. He barely survived Caps Ridge that fateful day.
But we were scheming, so we're thinking about, we want to get you out for I got to talk to my friend Tom, but we were thinking like 100-mile wilderness this summer, or maybe something, in those main 4,000 footers like Mount Spalding and Sugarloaf, or some of that area there to the AT. So
sounds good.
We'll lock that in, hopefully.
Lock it in.
So you want to talk about the hiking pole study one more time and give a little bit more detail on it?
Yeah, so far we've had a handful of submissions, and we're really holding out so that we can get a good sizable sample. Andy Cannon put together the questionnaire and then made a video demonstrating the balance test. So what we're going to do is just release the results on whether or not poles make a difference or not, and see if there's anything interesting we can glean from it. But they're in the show notes, so check out the show notes. If anybody needs help getting there, just direct message us on Insta or Facebook, and we'll guide you. And we'll probably put up that video again of Andy doing the balance test. That's a single leg stance test. That ain't easy, holding that thing for 60 seconds.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that was the most sensitive test we could find for this group of people. This younger cohort that I'm assuming we work with here. But get on there and put in your data.
Yeah, definitely. It's and I'll post it on the Facebook. I'm going to post on the Facebook page, not the group. The group is just out of control. It's just all cats.
I know, it's so ridiculous. I poke around and lurk around every now and then, and like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, it's just like somehow it just became this thing where everybody posts cats on it, which is it's kind of amusing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Speaking of cats, Daphne's down here tonight hanging out with me. She loves it. Loves the studio.
Cool, yeah. She's a cutie, but I haven't been on the Facebook group because I've been weaning myself off of social media. But I actually this morning I got a funny story. This morning I posted something. I think I've said this before, but I'm into Disney. Like, I like going to Disney World. We did family trips, and I'm in some of these groups about Disney. And somebody who posted something about like, when is Disney going to eliminate their masks? And I'm like, I'm kind of over the mask thing. I know, I get it. Like, It should just be voluntary at this point. But right. I wrote something about like, it should be voluntary, whatever. And within like 5 minutes, I get this reply from someone. Now, mind you, this is a adult Disney fan Facebook group that I'm in. And I get a reply within like 2 minutes, and it was this lady that was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe, are you Mike from the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast? I can't believe you're in my Disney group."
How'd you figure that out?
She must have known who I was. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's not as cool as being spotted in the parking lot, but I was like, right. It was kind of funny. So shout out to her. I don't know if she wants me to give her name away and out her as a adult Disney fan, so I won't say anything.
Very exclusive, tiny club.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Exactly. So we got to get to the show summary, but before we do that, you have another note here about snowboarding.
Yeah, my buddy. I can't believe it. I've been snowboarding for almost 40 years. The first time I was on a board was back in like 85. And the reason I bring it up, it's pretty neat. My really close friend, John Beller, is turning 50 on Valentine's Day, so we're going to try to get out together and shred it like the old days. But there's been a bit of this like renaissance happening here with me, like getting back on the board again, getting all the cobwebs off, and it's been fun. So keep a lookout for some videos on that. But 40 years, man. We were ripping it up when the boards had wooden skegs in the middle, and they would break every run. And to like watch the Olympics right now, watching these people like Shaun White and all this, it's mind blowing what people are doing with snowboarding right now.
So you started snowboard. When did snowboarding like become somewhat popular?
Mid to early 80s, I would say.
because I definitely remember, like at a certain point, like you weren't allowed to go to certain mountains for some reason. Why? What was that?
Well, I mean, it was liability for the most part for the larger resorts. So they established this system where you had to get certified, and you had to demonstrate you could turn, you could stop, and this and that, and you had to wear a badge with your image on it, and it spelled out the rules on your license for the day. I mean, it's sort of absurd. I remember it well. I mean, I was actually an instructor back at Loon and Stratton back in these early days, man. It was wild. So we went through that whole nonsense of getting certified and licensed. And I think these days, for the most part, it's accepted as a legitimate snow sport on the slopes. But there were some dark days for snowboarding in the early times.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I think, I graduated, I'll out myself with age, but I graduated high school in 1990. I skied all through junior high and high school and everything, and there was never any, I don't remember snowboarders. I remember vaguely, like, it wasn't that big of a thing, but I feel like when I went to college, I stopped skiing for a couple of years, and then when I graduated, I got back into it in like the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
And then that's when there was a ton of snowboarders. And then I think like, late 90s into the early 2000s is where snowboard culture just blew up. And it was almost like there was more snowboarders than skiers.
True. Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't seen that documentary, Dear Rider, about Jake Burton Carpenter, I really recommend that, because it is, if you really want to get a good sense of the history, the early day history, that's a phenomenal documentary. I believe HBO put that out. But yeah, check that out. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'll check that out tonight. I'm in the middle of binge watching The Witcher, but maybe I'll take a break tonight.
That's a good show.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I tried snowboarding one time. I went. I was like, I'll just go up top, and that'll be the best way to learn. And I went up on Wildcat, and I just caught the front edge, and I just slammed my shoulder. To this day, my shoulder is messed up because of that. I think I tore a rotator cuff or something. I had to walk down, and then I spent the day in the lodge.
Yeah,
not my thing. I like to rip it with the skis. One other question I had for you, Stump, before we get into the show summary is search and rescue, like new applications. Like if you wanted to join a search and rescue team, is the winter, like, do they do anything, or is it always like what's the season to like add new members?
I really can't speak for the process of other teams. I know that other teams will do winter shakedown hikes, and I don't know if that means that somebody can just come in as a new member and just get shaken down for winter activities, or if they have to be a member for a certain amount of time before they get to a point where they can qualify for winter. I'm not really sure, but it's a year-round process. For us over here on this side of the notch, you have to be a member for about a year or approximately 10 missions or so, and then you'll submit an essay explaining to the captain what your experience level is. And then from there, we'll have a winter qualifier, which we actually had up at Mount Jackson just a couple days ago. And that group is like, it's mostly for the extreme weather events, like adverse conditions, blizzards, etc., sub-zero, that type of thing. But as for the other teams, I do know that other teams have just recently had shakedowns. So it's a good question. If you're interested in checking it out, I would just contact the teams and get on their website and ask them yourself if you're interested in joining and you're just sort of stuck in this winter time. I mean, PEMI does most of their qualifiers in the summer, but we do have a special subgroup.
All right, interesting. So basically, if you're going to join, it sounds like, at least in your world, like if you're going to join, you join up in the non-winter season, do your shakedown hikes.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that too, because you don't want to get stuck in a situation with somebody that may not be a good fit for the team, or a team player, or just, you thought you had the experience with this individual and they don't. So the warmer months gives you a good time to get to know somebody before you throw them into more challenging circumstances.
Okay. When you do these shakedown hikes, is it everyone has to stay together and people need to keep up, or do you sort of self-identify to say like, all right, I'm a slower pace, I'm going to go with this group, and there's a faster pace that's going to go with this group? Or is it like everyone stays together and you're as fast as the slowest person?
More the latter. Yeah, I mean, you're still hiking at your own pace and whatnot. I think the focus for us tends to be upon pack prep and just training on how to use the winter litters as opposed to the summer ones. We use the plastic skid and things like that. So it's not necessarily fastest man to the top. I mean, that doesn't serve much of a purpose. Unless you know that somebody's hypothermic, sure, there's that pressure, but it's still hike at your own pace. Be safe. You don't want to overexert for all the reasons that we've talked about ad nauseum, sweating out and then getting cold and stuff like that. So the same safety factors that we talk about, Mike, apply. Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, eventually I'll move up to New Hampshire. I'll be on the team with you. They'll take one look at me and be like, no, not a good fit.
I mean, in the winter, we will definitely avoid sending people up solo. We'll pair them up. We'll, if not, triple them up, because that's a whole other safety level that you want to be aware of too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All
right. Well, this is a long one here, so we said this is going to be a quick show, but we haven't gotten through the show opener yet.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm feeling pretty good.
You got to do sponsors and coffee talk.
Yeah, we have a couple. Let's see. We have Keaton S. donated 3 coffees. Liv from Lawrence donated 1. Thank you very much, Liv. And Mindy Olson donated 5. And I believe that's Bethlyn's friend, right?
Yes,
Mindy,
that's
and Bethlyn.
Hello, Mindy.
Hi there. Good to see you. Thanks for donating. And of course,
have you noticed what is going on with everyone donating from Lawrence?
I don't know. It's sort of creepy, huh?
Nah, it's not. I love Lawrence. My kids go to school in Lawrence.
Where do they go?
Central. I don't know. People are going to say Central Catholic.
Okay, gotcha.
Go Raiders. So
awesome. Yeah, there's some good parts and some good qualities of Lawrence, right? Left.
Hey. You expose them to all the wonders and diversity of the world. That's the way I look at it.
Right. Well, let me just give a quick plug out to Rek-lis here. So special thanks to Rek-lis, our sponsor. Best beer up in the North Country, people, where you'll enjoy the best food, craft beer, and fun. Just 15 minutes from Franconia Notch, many 4,000 footers, and less than 10 minutes from the 5 Corners. Awesome.
All right. So welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. Tonight, we are going to do a highlight discussion on a winter hike on the Hancock. So we'll dive into that, and we'll even explore the age-old question of snowshoes versus microspikes and what is all the etiquette around that. So we'll guide you through the Hancocks, which is one of the more remote mountain ranges in the Whites, and we'll also talk about gray jays, butt sledding, and Stomp, you're going to need to help me determine whether the Hancocks is an easy hike or a hard hike. There's no in between. It's either easy or hard, and we'll figure that out. In addition to the deep dive on that recent hike, we've got some cleanup to do. We missed a couple of topics about through hiking with Matt last week, and so we'll revisit that, and then we'll review some recent search and rescue news, and we might have a little bit of Nahampsha history, and then Stomp, are we going to do avalanche talk, or do you want to hold that for the next episode?
Oh, we can hold on that. That's fine. There's been some activity, though, for sure. People should be aware of.
Okay. All right, so we'll hold on that. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 more snowstorms that can really get the avalanche stuff kicking.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
All right. So hopefully you're not drinking any beer and you're drinking like Robitussin or something.
I'm having like a hot toddy. It's a miracle drink. Is that acceptable?
Clear your lungs.
Yeah.
It's
It's actually really interesting. My mom gave me this amazing recipe, and at first I was hesitant about the ingredients, but it's actually really good. Not bad. Like a little honey, and your nasal passages clear up. So, how about you?
Bitter. Well, hold on. Now I'm curious. I feel like if I was going to make a hot toddy that was for COVID, I feel like bitters would be involved. Yeah, I don't even know what bitters is. I just know it's like something you put in your drinks, right?
Yeah, there's a percentage of like lemon. So you're supposed to put actual lemon slices into this. So it's boiling water, a degree of whiskey or bourbon or whatever you use, and honey.
Okay.
And the combination's pretty cool. It actually, back several days ago, it broke my fever.
Really?
Like, it was the first thing that broke my fever. Yeah. So good job, Mom.
Okay. Thank you, Grandma Stomp.
Are you drinking anything?
I am, yeah. I got, I think it's the Notch Brewery. Is that what it is? The Notch?
Huh.
I don't know what the brewing company is. I think it's Notch, and it's Left of the Dial.
Interesting.
And it's an American session beer IPA.
Wonder what Notch. Wonder if they're in Franconia.
I don't know. I'll have to do some research.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm assuming it's Notch Brewing Company.
Yeah.
The writing is too small for me to see. I have to do that old person thing where you like take a picture with your iPhone
right.
and then zoom in.
You haven't gone to the readers yet?
Well, I have readers, but I actually, matter of fact, I got the readers here, but I wear contacts.
Oh, okay,
so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do the reader thing. Oh my goodness, fun.
Sucks getting old, Stomp. Sucks getting old.
Cool.
All right, so I think, so we got our beer talk done. Recent hikes, I hiked the Hancock Loop. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that one in a few minutes. So, Stomp, why don't you talk about what you did up on Welch?
Yeah, I was, let's see, I went up to Welch and then back down the boundary bushwhack way that I typically tend to go. So it was just, deep snow, breaking trail, or breaking powder in the backwoods. So that was nice. Just a quick little thing, because I'm really still not feeling too hot. People have seen me post pictures of those boundary markers. Those markers just surround the entire White Mountain National Forest, and they can actually be really fun to follow if you do your research.
Yeah, and do you when you hike Welch Dickey, do you like leave right? And I don't want to give away exactly where you live, but you live pretty close by. Can you like just walk out of your house and get there, or do you still need to drive a little bit to down by the lot?
I can walk. Yeah, there are like these abandoned trails that are accessible from my place. I could still walk. It would take me maybe 10 minutes to get to the trailhead, maybe 5 or 10 minutes if I went to the actual trailhead. But there are these like old trails that are everywhere around that neighborhood that go straight up. They're more or less abandoned, but people use them all the time for skiing and snowshoeing, this and that.
Yeah, that's what I figured, man. That is such a cool area.
It's really neat. It never gets old. It was funny. There's at the Overlook, I call it the Overlook. It's that little open expanse, quarter mile below the summit of Welch. I believe they were German, this couple. It was like 3:30 in the afternoon. This guy had a fanny pack. They had no headlamps, nothing. And they were going up to Welch. And I actually said, you guys should consider turning back. They didn't have snowshoes. It was just after that big storm, the first storm that we had about a week ago. And they just decided to go. So that's where I went back down and went backcountry, but they went up. And who knows, the mystery.
We didn't hear that. They're not on the show script.
Yeah,
the search and rescue.
Yeah, that's
news.
true.
That's good.
But honestly, it's like it was cold too, and I'm sure you'll talk about that during your hike. But it's warm now, but the last several days have been super cold.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good that you got out, and I think
I had to. I'm losing my mind.
I did the same thing. Like I was still feeling it from COVID, but I got out during the big storm that we had down here. I just went out like in the middle of it, and I did like a 4-mile walk. And it felt like I was so dry inside the house that I just had to get out.
Oh, the cold air is wonderful too. I mean, I found that I was sort of coughing when I was done, like that post-exertion coughing fit. But the whole time out, it was beautiful. It was great. It actually seemed like it cleared up my lungs for that time.
It is. And there is just something about, and I mean, we talked about this with Martin around like the staying young. There's just something about, even if you're not feeling the greatest, just getting outside a little bit and getting moving, it just does wonders for you. I remember when I came back, I was like, oh yeah, I feel a lot better than I did when I was sitting inside the house doing nothing for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Within reason.
Yeah. Don't push it too hard. But All right, so that's good stuff. So Stomp, hopefully my advice to you is rest up this weekend, and then we'll be back at it the following weekend, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to getting out.
Yeah. All right, so let's transition into our first segment, which is last week we connected with Matt, and he was great. So he gave us a whole rundown on the Appalachian Trail, but I noticed, like, I was looking through the notes, even though Knobbie says, like, I should do more research and planning, like, I had a ton of notes, and we missed a couple of things, or we didn't dive into a couple of things that I wanted to with Matt. So I want to see if I can get him back on again, maybe during the PCT hike or something. We can give us an update. But one of the big things that I forgot to cover with him, that is like one of the biggest things, is him and his wife run a Trail Magic setup in Vermont. And I don't know if it's a long trail section or if it's the AT, but they keep like a cooler full of like soda and stuff at the trail junction. So
interesting.
One of the things about through hiking is that you will run into this like Trail Magic culture. So we didn't really talk that much about it, but it's kind of pretty cool. Like you can, I don't think you want to rely on it, but I think Trail Magic started like a long time ago with like people just randomly, former through hikers would just hit the trail and give people like candy or food or whatever at the road crossings. And now it's kind of blown up to the point where people like plan their whole lives around like just following the through hikers and giving them Trail Magic.
Oh, it's such a boost too psychologically for people.
Yeah. You know? Have you ever gotten Trail Magic? Yeah,
actually. Not related to the AT, but when my wife and I were doing this mega long, was it, I have to think of it. It was a Bonds. It was definitely a Bonds Traverse, but I can't recall if we were coming in from Lincoln Woods or if we were coming in from the Hut. But needless to say, it was a super duper long day, and then we ended up coming down, over the Twin Way, down South Twin, and then down Gale River Trail, one of those trails back out. And a good friend was waiting there at the end for us with iced tea and just grilled food. It was absolutely amazing. So cool.
Yeah. They had, when I had Grafton Notch, when I came out of Grafton Notch there, that we saw two different groups. So there's like people that drive campers and they just wait at the trailhead. So there was like two separate groups of Trail Magic people. And me and Tom had just done like a section hike for 3 days, but they got so excited when they saw us walk out of the woods. Like they had fruit and soda and even some beer. I didn't have any beer, but they had all kinds of stuff, like Cheez-Its too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, when you're like on trail, like a thing, I had like 2 things of Cheez-Its and a Coke.
It just tastes amazing.
It was the best. Yeah. So Pawsey and his wife do a lot of Trail Magic, and then when you do through hiking, I guess this is some controversy. Like it used to be that Trail Magic was actually like spontaneous and like you couldn't expect it. But now I think for the most part, especially like when April hits and then the bubble goes through certain towns, like I think people plan their weekends around like, let's make sure that we got Trail Magic set up, and people will set up grills and food and all kinds of crazy stuff at the road crossing. So I think people sort of get entitled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it up at Lost River or anything like that, but maybe I'm not looking. I've seen plenty of AT hikers coming through, but some places may be more attended to than others, I would think.
Yeah, and I think the deal with New England is that like they'll so the other thing about through hiking is there's this thing called the bubble. So the bubble is where like the bulk of the hikers are, and some people try to get in front of it. Some people will stay behind it. Some people are right in the middle. But like you can go online. Matter of fact, I'll include in the show notes. There's like a projection. There's like this website that actually projects the dates that the bubble will hit certain areas. So whenever I'm hiking near the AT, if I know that it's like the bubble or whatever, like I'll be up in. I'm trying to think where I've seen through hikers like. I've seen them on Franconia. I've seen them on the Presidentials. Like I'll always, if I can, I'll grab a couple extra like Snickers bars or something and always have them available. And then I'll give candy bars away to the through hikers. That's about the extent of what I've done. Do you know how to spot a thru hiker when you're hiking?
This sounds like a joke. This sounds like a tick joke. Is this a joke that you're going to drop on me here?
No, just sort of some tips, or at least my opinion on how I can tell the difference between a regular hiker and a thru hiker.
I look for the pack. I mean, they've got a monster pack generally, and they look pretty ragged. Boots are ragged.
Yeah.
Shorts, I don't know. They get a look about them. They look a little scruffy.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the sneakers, then number one. And then the other thing, too, that is a telltale sign is if they have Crocs hanging off their backpack.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, although it wasn't as big of a deal, but a lot of them will have the tag, that tag that you get down in at Springer.
Yeah.
There's it's usually like a triangle or a diamond shaped tag.
Gotcha.
It gives the number, like you're the number 1,000 thru hiker that came through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'll have that dangling off. And then the guys will have beards. Almost all of them have crazy beards.
And gaiters too, like summer gaiters. I want to say that a lot of them use gaiters.
They do, yeah, that's true. They have those little dainty gaiters.
Yeah. I've had my share of pickups, hitchhikers. I do my best to pick them up. I mean, it's like one thing I'll do. If I see somebody with a pack, it's an automatic. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
Hop in.
Yeah, me too. I haven't picked up too many thru hikers. I did tell you, I picked up this guy. I think I told the story on one of the first shows that I picked a guy up that took a wrong turn and ended up on the Mount Washington Auto Road, and he came down. And he's like, I got to get back to Appalachia. Is that a long hike or a long walk? And I was like, yeah, dude, get in.
That's a hell of a hike.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He was happy. So, all right. So the other thing that we talked a little bit about this, but shaking down gear. So I think one of the big things that thru hikers, it's pretty common. Like Matt's story was that he didn't really have a ton of experience hiking, and it sounds like he did pretty well with his initial gear selection. But my experience is that a lot of folks make a lot of mistakes when they start the trail. They usually will start too heavy, and they'll do a shakedown of their gear, and they get rid of a bunch of stuff. So there's hiker boxes in town where people can leave stuff that they don't need, and the whole deal with thru hiking is that you want to optimize your weight. Some people get crazy with it, and they get down to their base weight is 8 pounds or 7 pounds or something. But wow, I usually get amazing. Around 12 and a half.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And does that stay consistent straight through Maine if you're going northbound as the weather gets colder? Or I'm assuming you're adding possibly as the weather starts to go south.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There was certainly a lot of people that were still coming through in September when we were hiking in Grafton. I think it was September, maybe it was August, but there was still a lot of people coming through. So I'm assuming that the really late hikers would have to swap out their quilts and go with heavier bags.
Yeah.
And maybe a heavier jacket or something.
I would think so.
And then a couple of notes here. So I think Matt had mentioned, I had asked him, was he a shelter rat or was he into tenting? And I'm not sure everybody understands what that means. Stomp, do you want to just describe what a typical AT shelter looks like and what the layout is?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, around here, you'll see a shelter that's open faced. You have 3 walls, a roof, and it's elevated up off the ground. There's usually a fire pit and basic rudimentary stuff for thru hikers that come through.
Yeah, and usually there's a lot of times there's a shelter, and then there'll be tent platforms, or there'll be a flat area where you can set up a bunch of tents, and then it's pretty easy to find a hammock spot. And then typically there'll be a privy, and then a
sometimes,
yeah, and then there'll typically be a water source pretty close by.
Yeah. Some of them are hit or miss. I mean, some of them are in decent shape, and some of them are pretty.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the ones in New Hampshire are pretty nice, and the ones I've been to in Maine are pretty good size and pretty well established. I don't know about down south. I feel like those probably get a lot more traffic because people do drop. That's the other thing is a lot of times they'll drop in Virginia, or they'll just life happens, or they just find out that they hate hiking, and they disappear. So the people that actually make it up to New Hampshire are a small percentage of what actually starts on the trail. Yeah. So the other thing that I didn't cover with him in too much detail is if you're interested in learning about the Appalachian Trail, one of the things that you can do is check out YouTube, and there's a number of social media hikers that are pretty famous that actually have some pretty good videos that can break it down. Do you know any? Do you follow anybody on YouTube or any? You don't do social media stuff, do you, Stomp?
Not specific to the AT. Maybe a handful of people.
Yeah. Well, I'll link the people, like, so the big one, the biggest social media hiking person on YouTube is this lady named Dixie. Mm-hmm. And she's got millions of viewers. So I think she has a full-time job as just being a hiker. Yeah.
I get a kick out of just our friends and acquaintances that are section hiking the AT rather than the AT, the full through hiker experience. I get a lot of that. I see that, Daniel Maple, for instance, and a few others.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's cool. But there's there's two big ones. Dixie and Darwin are the two big social media. And then there is a local hiker named, her trail name's Nahampsha Hiker. And I tried to reach out to her to see if she'd come on the show. I'm going to try to. You should. If anybody knows her, Nahampsha, if you're listening, we want to talk to you. So hopefully she'll come on. And then there's one of the lady named Braids that I followed. So I'll put those links in the show notes. And if anyone's interested, they actually do I would say I've watched hundreds of these videos with social media through hikers, and those are about the only 4 that have ever captured my attention for more than 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So, but that's it. Anything else we missed about through hiking, Stomp?
God, yeah, it's a deep topic. It's probably one that we should explore a little more regularly. But I think we did a good job with Matt, and thanks, Matt, for coming on again. That was a good show.
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
All right, so on to segment 2, which is we'll talk a little bit about a winter hike on the Hancocks. So how many times have you hiked the Hancocks?
Just once.
I know you've been in that area a ton, though.
I've done a lot of bushwhacking, the Huntingtons and things like that. But I've only done the loop, the traditional Mount Hancock, South Hancock loop off the Kank once with my wife. It's been a long time. We've done a couple rescues, and actually, whenever we get a call for that area, it's yes, because they're always on that long Hancock Notch Trail, which is 2, 3, 4 miles long, essentially.
Yes.
So that's always a blessing, but only once. How about you? Was this your first time out there?
No. Okay. I've been out there. This is my 4th time, I think.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I've been out there a lot. And I was the reason I picked it was because I was looking at I don't really care that much, but I was trying to get some winter 4,000 footers because I think I got 27 now. Mm-hmm. So I was I might as well just finish that list. So I've been picking away at it over the winters for the last couple of years. So I was I haven't done, I did the Hancocks in the snow in April, and then I've done it over the summer and the fall, but I've never done it in actual winter. So I was I'm going to go do it. So Mark said he would join me. So my plan was I was nervous about the parking, and the lot was not plowed, but you could get in. But I was more nervous about getting there late and not being able to get a spot. But what I didn't realize about the parking lot is that people all park on the road on the Kank, which I didn't know you could do that. Tough. I was always nervous that you get pulled over or you get towed or something, but everybody was parking on the road.
It's super tough. It fills up so fast.
Yeah. But we got there. I left my house. I forgot my gaiters, so I had to turn back around. But I still got up there. I was going 85, 90 the whole way. I got up there pretty quick. There was no police on the road.
You probably would have been fine without gaiters, I'm thinking. A lot of it tamped down.
Everything was tamped down, but you know what I was thinking was the last time I was up there in the snow, the trail from north to south is pretty flat, and it gets a ton of what's that called?
Loading effect, wind loading and all that.
Yeah, the snow blows across the trail.
Yeah,
snow flows or whatever.
Yeah.
They can get deep. So drifts, that's what I meant. So thank God we found that, because if not, our friend Al was going to message me and say I got the word wrong. But so I ended up getting the gaiters. I turned around and got them. But I met Mark at the lot at 6:30. It was about -9 degrees, but it was no wind.
I saw that. I was looking at the temps going, ooh, they got a cold one in store for them.
Yeah, it didn't factor in at all.
Felt great.
There was no wind and you're sheltered. Yeah, it felt great.
Yeah.
So the only thing that it affected was I did start with I had my fleece and then I used a soft shell jacket. So I started a little warmer than I would have otherwise. But other than that, I took the soft shell off and then I was in the fleece the whole time until we got up top.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are starting out at roughly like 2,000 feet elevation.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So
a little cooler.
So the Hancock Trail is on the Kingamangas Highway. It's right at the hairpin turn on the Lincoln side. You go right across the street. There's a nice picnic table there, so you can get your snowshoes on. For us, it was no debate at all. It was like we're putting snowshoes on, and we'll assess whether or not we take them off and switch to spikes. But the trail conditions were such that it was packed down, but it was loose on top. So if you had gone with spikes, you would have been okay, but you would have been sinking in probably about 4 to 5 inches every time you took a step,
which is tiring.
And it would have been the equivalent of like walking in sand barefoot.
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So that was our decision point. Was we were like, okay, it's much better to be in the snowshoes. It was well packed down, and there was one group ahead of us that was in snowshoes as well. So we were packing the trail down again.
Yeah.
And we made our way in, and I would say the beginning part of the Hancocks is like 3.3 miles where you go, I think it's the Hancock Loop Trail, and then you connect to Cedar Brook. But it's very much like Lincoln Woods. It's just flat and straight for a long distance. So it's not a lot of work, which is great. So for me, it's an easy hike from that perspective. Where it gets difficult is when you basically get to this little valley where you're overlooking. You can see North Hancock, and North Hancock has a huge open slide called the Arrow. Is it the Arrowhead or the Arrow Slide?
Arrow Slide.
It's the Arrow Slide.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it looks tempting. I was like, well, Mark, we could try to get up there, but avalanche risk is not good.
Yeah. I'm sure it was covered for the most part, but generally there's one hell of an ice covering underneath there. It's a very wet slide.
Yeah, exactly. So the trail goes to the right side of the slide. I will say in the summertime, if you get it on a good day, as you're approaching that section, if you're interested in actually hiking up the Arrow Slide instead of going up the Hancock Loop Trail to north, I highly recommend that as a hike. It's a little bit sketchy, a little bit dangerous because it is open slab and it does stay wet, but it's maneuverable. Like I took my daughter up there, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, I talked to Jack Daly about that hike quite a bit. He's done it a number of times. I've yet to do it. It looks like a lot of fun. He had a close call up there, if I remember correctly. So that wet slab can be tricky, so you got to be careful, obviously.
Yeah, it's a no-fall zone. Like if you go, you're going. Right. That's it. So you do have to. It's a little bit of a scary situation. But in winter, I think the only people I know that have ever done any winter activity on the slide was Casey and Jimmy Chaga. They hiked it and then snowboarded down a couple of times on that slide.
Yeah. Crazy bastards.
Which is crazy. But anyway, so snowshoes in. It's an easy trail. You get to the little river crossing right before you get to the approach to North Hancock. You can see the slide right in front of you. Then you have a 1,000-foot climb that gains in, I think it's 0.7 of a mile.
Right.
So it's straight up, basically. It's sort of like, it reminds me of the Flume Slide Trail a little bit, like you're in the woods, but it's pretty steep. But the nice thing was me and Mark had he was giving me some background about his work, and we were talking about some other stuff. So we stuck together and we were talking the whole time. And the other nice thing about this was the people in front of us, they were wearing snowshoes and they broke out the trail with kick steps with the snowshoes, which was perfect because it was literally like walking upstairs the whole time.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that works out good.
So and we just tried to match their steps so that we would build in those steps even better over time.
Yeah, so if you approach this loop clockwise, you're ascending 0.7. If you're doing a counter, it's 0.5. What was your discussion with Mark regarding which direction you were going to tackle this loop? Because I actually did this counterclockwise with my wife when we did it.
I had told him that my recommendation would be to go north because that's the only direction I've ever gone. Mm-hmm. And I also sort of in my mind thought that like the butt sledding down, the south is steeper. And I was like, I'd rather descend that on the off chance that we could butt slide down. Maybe it'll be a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So, and I always just recommend going up north first because it's just, those are where the really nice views are, in my opinion, out to the Pemi.
Yeah. And for those crazy people that want to get a lay of the land here, from South Hancock, if you look directly east, maybe northeast, it heads right over to the Captain. So that's one hell of a bushwhack, let me tell you. I've not done that, but that was one approach I was considering some time ago. But yeah, it's an amazing area. And back to remoteness, before they built the Kank, this was considered the most remote part of the White Mountain National Forest until it was made accessible by the Kank. That's pretty neat to think about. And if you get past the loop and follow Cedar Brook and get really deep into the Pemi Wilderness, there's some beautiful, beautiful wilderness in there. Just awesome.
Yeah, and I'm actually like, me and you should, one of the things I want to do is explore that Cedar Brook Trail down a little deeper and go out to the Pemi from that way, and then maybe look at like Northwest Hancock, which is like a peak that's a little farther along the drainage there. So there's definitely a lot of exploring out there, but we did it clockwise, and it's 0.7 of a mile to get up 1,000 feet, and then once you've made it when you see those little white and gray birds all start appearing.
Oh yeah.
If there's one place in the whites where it's most consistent that I've seen gray jays, it's on the Hancocks.
Yeah, and then Mount Jackson too, right?
Jackson, Mizpah Hut, and on Pierce as well.
How are the birds looking these days? Are they looking a little endomorphic? Or are they looking
so fat?
Oh, see, that's so sad to me. Like initially when I first encountered them, I fed them like everybody else does. But now that I think about it, damn, poor birds.
All right. Do you have your Bible out?
Yes, I do. Is this confession?
Please, Lord, forgive me. I had. So Mark has never seen the Gray Jays. So I had.
So he gets a waiver.
Yeah. So I had a little bird food, and I did. I agree with you. Like, we shouldn't be feeding them, but
it's starting to show.
It's my Disney princess moment, Storm.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try not to give them too much, just enough to get them to get in my hand. So what they do with this food is I'm not leaving. I guess to leave no trace. Don't come at me. But they take this food, and my understanding is that they cache the food, like they'll wrap it in saliva, and then they stick it. It's like sticky. They stick it to the back of a tree, and then they have food for the whole winter to make it through.
Amazing. Well, they found their little niche.
Cool. Yeah, they did. So I'm sure that it's a never-ending debate about like, don't feed the gray jays, and generally I don't, but I did. Sorry. Anyway, but so there's that, and then the thing is, so as you approach the true peak of North Hancock, there's a little spur trail that gets you to a little opening that you can view out to the Pemi Wilderness, and you can see like Franconia Ridge, you can see Owl's Head, you can see the Lincoln Slide. Gets you a nice view out there, and normally in the summer, I would come up that way on the slide, and then there's a little herd path that you cut through to get you to the peak. I was sort of thinking about like, maybe me and Mark could cut through that little herd path, go down to the very top of the slide, get some better views, but it wasn't even worth it. It was because we were just going to see the same view.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought though. Yeah, but it's neat to have the slide below you as you're taking pictures. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But it looked a lot steeper in the winter than I recalled.
Yeah, interesting.
So I just said, forget it. But then we hung out, took some pictures. Then the trail from north to south is pretty flat. It's a little bit of like, what do you call those, puds?
Yes, purposeless.
Pointless up and downs.
Ups and downs.
Yeah, so a little bit of that. I think you drop about 200-300 feet, then you got to come back up. But the nice thing about hiking the Hancocks in the winter that I'd never seen before is that as you make your way to, I guess that would be the east, and you look out, you can actually get some really good views of, I think it was like Whitewall and the back of like Willie, Tom, and Field, and then you can see the presidentials very easily.
Yeah. All right, so say that again. So you're looking more like southeast?
So you're going, it's almost like due east. So if you're leaving North Hancock, and then you almost take a hard right, and then you're going, yeah, I guess it's a little bit southeast.
Yeah.
And then as you're walking, it's like a flat tabletop situation.
Got it.
And then you can look over and see Willie Tom Field, and you can see, I think it's Whitewall, or maybe it might be Jackson, that slide there, and then you can see the presidentials pretty easily.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome area.
Yeah. Which you cannot get that view in the fall or the summer, just because everything's grown in. And then you make your way over to South Hancock, and that is where you are looking right at. You can see the Captain, and you can see Mount Carrigain as you come over, and then it gives you a nice view into the Sandwich Range. You can see Chicora pretty prominently.
Yeah.
So even though it's not like there's no expansive views, there's so many good peaks, little, not peaks mountains, but peaks for your eyes, that you can take a lot of great photos, and you can see a lot of different perspective from an area that's almost like dead center in the Whites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. And then the highlight of the entire hike was the ascent down south. I told Knobbie, I was like, look, he had these Tubbs snowshoes that were like 32 inches. I don't know how big they were. They were way bigger than mine. Yeah. And I was like, look, you're going to have a hard time coming down. I said, just be prepared that you're going to need to use the trees, and it may be safer for us to just butt slide depending on how steep it is. I said, I don't even know if we're going to be able to, because it's going to be too steep. Mm-hmm. I had worn my shell pants, and we went down maybe a couple of 100 feet, and it was just so apparent that there was no way that we were going to be able to get down that safely without like sort of scooting on our butts.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly we realized it's absolutely perfect conditions for butt sledding. So the trails were packed down, and there was enough of a sidewall on either side that we were able to just literally just go. Huh. And that half a mile, we got done in like probably about 5 minutes, 3 minutes. And there was one section where we went for maybe 2.5 minutes straight that we didn't even stop.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was like one of the best butt sledding experiences I had. The other one I had was on Valley Way when we hiked with you guys. Mm-hmm. This was way better because it was steeper and faster, and we were just flying.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Yeah. Sounds like a good time.
Oh, it was fantastic. We were like screaming like little 12-year-olds.
So did you keep your snowshoes on while you were butt sledding?
I did, yeah. Yeah. So we kept our snowshoes on, and they just lifted the snowshoes up so that the very bottom of the snowshoes where the crampons are
just
not in,
sliding like a ski.
They were just sort of controlling. They were picking up snow as we were going down, which controlled our speed a little bit. And then we were also picking up snow on our butts, which slowed us down a little bit. But it was like the perfect snow amount to keep us regulated, where we were just flying. And it was also, we didn't have to get up to stop a bunch of times, because we were just able to keep going the whole time.
Good call. That's awesome.
So, yeah. And then we got down towards the bottom, then we had to stand up. And the second we did, these two guys came up with a dog, and they were coming up south. And I immediately, I was like, it's going to be tough for you guys to get up. And I looked at the dog, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But I almost like was going to tell him, like, you're almost like wasting the best day of your life if you're going up this way. You should be going the other direction because you can butt slide down. But I didn't want to. I was like, not my business.
Right. Huh.
So, and then that was it. We just hauled our way out of there. We were like on our way back by 11, maybe 10:30 or so, because we got on trail at like 7.
That's amazing.
And then we were done by 12:15.
Wow, cruising. Yeah, it's a quick one.
Yeah. So it was 10 miles.
Right. And most of it, a good portion of it is fairly flat.
Yeah, it's 3.3 miles out, and you get 1,000 feet of gain. And then it's 0.7 of a mile or 0.7 of a mile up. And then you got to go across that section there. So it's 10 miles total, but like probably 8 of it is flat or flat-ish.
Well, that's awesome. If you're interested in going back there at some point soon, it's like in my my Mount Huntington series quest. The next one is Mount Huntington. It's like if you look at the map where Cedar Brook branches off, you have the Hancock Notch Trail. Mount Huntington is more or less a backcountry bushwhack. You're heading straight south off of the Hancock Notch Trail. If you're up for something like that, it would be a hybrid. It would be half trail, half bushwhack. But what's great about this weather is like, you're wearing snowshoes straight up to the summit, and then you just follow your track back out. So it's actually pretty simple. But that's the next on my list.
Yeah, let me know. I mean, if you're feeling better, we could do that maybe in 2 weeks. But I can tell you that the Hancock Notch Trail, which you bear left to go up to the Hancock Loop Trail, but the Hancock Notch Trail, if you continued on, I took a look at that. I'm always scoping it out, and I was thinking about like, okay, did anybody go that way?
Nobody.
And it was not broken out.
Nope.
It was broken out by someone that was using having a bathroom break, and that was it.
Yeah, no, I get it totally. I mean, there's different ways to do it, but all in all, you're looking at short mileage from that first junction. Actually, at that junction, you could go right directly east up a gully straight towards Mount Huntington. That's a big one, 3,700 feet.
Yeah, I see, but it almost looks like if you go another mile up, then you're right at the closest section of the peak, and it looks like there may be like a big open spot there too on the map.
Yeah, it looks fairly open, open woods and everything else.
Yeah, it's literally like it's about 0.3 of a mile from the trail to get to the top.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I would do that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail.
Good stuff. How did Knobbie do? Yeah. Did he forgive you for kicking his butt on your Triple Crown finish there?
Yeah. So we were like, it was perfect because I was like, I wasn't in shape because I haven't run in the last couple of weeks, and we just stuck together. He was talking about the podcast a little bit, and then we were talking about just personal stuff, and he had gotten COVID as well.
Yeah.
So we were comparing notes on COVID. So we were talking the whole time.
Great.
It was great.
Good time.
It was great. Yeah. So good time, Knobbie. Looking forward to getting back out there with you again.
He's a good guy.
Last thing that came up is, so me and Mark were coming back. Again, we used snowshoes. It was the correct gear for the day. A bunch of people we saw that were sort of early coming in there, they had snowshoes. And then as we got down about 2-3 miles from the trailhead and it was getting later in the day, we started seeing a bunch of people coming up with like micro spikes, no snowshoes.
Yeah.
And I don't say anything to anybody, it's not my business or whatever, but it is like they're burning a ton of energy because they're sinking in, they're sort of hacking up the trail. And, I was just sort of wondering, I was like, okay, well, it's 12 o'clock, you're sinking in with your micro spikes. Only one of you has a backpack. There's 2 people that don't have a backpack, and you're not really wearing the greatest gear. Like, it gets dark out by 5:30. Is Stomp gonna have to come and save you? But I don't say anything because people make it out, or maybe they're not going to hike the whole mountain. I don't know.
Yeah. There are different factors. That's a tricky one because this is the first big snow that we had, but it tamps down to a reasonable base of gushy, 3 or 4 inches of snow. So I mean, in my mind, you could do either or. I don't think you're pissing off the purest anti-post holers by wearing spikes, but what you said about the energy level, you're going to be working harder, but there are those people that want that challenge, so it's a tough one this time of the year with this type of condition.
Yeah.
I don't know. As I get older, I opt for the snowshoe because I don't want to roll my ankle. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with me. It's sort of like, I don't want to get political, but like I've sort of evolved. Like, and again, I've done everything that's been asked of me, but like with masks now, I'm sort of at the point where it's like, okay, well, if you need a mask, like wear a mask for COVID. I sort of look at it the same way with the snowshoes. Is like, if you're concerned about rolling your ankle, like it doesn't matter what that person is, if they're building up a post hole. In 90% of the scenario, like even if it is post hole, like you've got your snowshoes on, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So anyway, but I highly recommend the Hancocks. It was a great day. It's got great views. I'm gonna chalk it up as an easier hike, on the easier side, but I also don't discount the mileage. So it is a long distance hike. You're talking 10 miles total for that loop. So even though it's easy miles, some people just aren't ready for that distance.
I'd like to get back there again.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like a great hike. I'll do that with you.
Oh, sure. That'd be fun.
Huntington.
I can promise you it's not going to be very difficult unless we get hammered by another foot of snow or something. But, going from 2,000, 2,500 feet up to 37 is not that bad if you're just taking your time and having fun with it. And on the way down, you're just skiing down. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Bag the register and split.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now we're moving on to the next segment here, which is recent search and rescue news, and we're going to be calling this the death segment, because I think like every single link on here has somebody dying.
Yeah. And we had a legit rescue, or a recovery, I suppose, at this point, but there was finally some activity that didn't involve a snowmobile.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even do any snowmobile stories this week, but I think there's got to be, we did about 10 or 15 snowmobile stories 2 episodes ago, and there's been, or maybe 1 episode ago, there's probably been 5 or 6 more.
Incredible. A couple DWIs too.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's
local guys.
The ultimate shame. Yeah. I mean, you can't mess around with them. These are freaking machines. It's not the place to be bombed.
All right, so first one is local, unfortunate story here. So this is, I'm reading the WMUR article. So an ice climber collapsed while hiking up a mountain and did not respond to efforts from his group to revive him. The New Hampshire Fish and Game Department said. So it was a 67-year-old man from Florida. He was making his way up Mount Willard to go ice climbing on Friday morning. So members of his group immediately began CPR and continued to attempt to revive him for over an hour. And then members of the Mountain Rescue Service and Bartlett Jackson Ambulance Service and Twin Mountain Fire also responded. So I think that's a very popular ice climbing area. My impression is they always hike over the railroad tracks and then climb up, but maybe he was climbing up Willard with a plan to rappel or descend. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure. That's what I thought of as well. Possibly to set up rope up top, and then for people that are coming up from down below. I don't know.
Yeah, so that sucks. I mean, Mount Willard is generally considered on the easier side, but if you have a medical condition, the medical condition doesn't care whether the hike is easy or difficult. It's going to show up.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, recovery. All right. So, sad story. Hopefully, all our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. And it's definitely a difficult thing when you're out there just looking to have a fun day and that happens. So, all right. This next one here, Jesus, Stomp.
That's depressing. That's a dead link, because that link that I sent you was 8 people died due to Austrian avalanches. It's gone up to 9 as of the 7th.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 9 people dead after weekend avalanches in Austria. Unbelievable.
Wow.
In the Alps.
That's crazy. Wow. Did they were climbing, or were they backcountry skiing, or what was the story?
Let's see. They were getting ready. They were skiers. There was a guide from Austria leading a group of 5 from Sweden down the mountain when they were swept away by a 350 to 400 meter wide slab avalanche. That is massive.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
And they said that even like a small little tremor can trigger a snow slide. Like they said, it doesn't take much.
Yeah, the victims were all in their 40s. Interesting location right at the Austrian-Swiss border. But yeah, that's awful. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that is pretty scary there. And I've watched a couple of shows about the Swiss Alps, and I forget the name of the TV show, but there is a Swiss search and rescue team. I think it's Zermatt is they considered like the world's best aerial search and rescue team, and that they spend all day, like you guys go out to Falling Waters, like they spend all day hopping in the helicopter and pulling people out of crevasses in the Alps that are like backcountry skiers. It's crazy.
I think I saw the first episode, which is pretty intense. They start off with a bang. Do you recall that?
Yeah. The guy, I think in the episode you're talking about, the guy's backcountry skier falls into a crevice and he's just basically, I think, bleeding out, and they've got to fly to save him, and they had to set up like a big tripod to pull him out. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's dangerous there, but I definitely want to check out the Alps, and I think we got to get Martin back on. I think he's got a lot of experience in that area, so we can talk to him about it. All right, next one is in Colorado. So we're going around the world. So 2 snowshoers and a dog killed in a Colorado avalanche. So bodies of 2 people and a dog were killed when they were buried by a 400-foot wide avalanche while snowshoeing in the Colorado mountains. Bodies were missing, and then the bodies have been recovered. So a man and woman were found on Sunday at the 12,000 foot level of North Star Mountain, about 90 miles west of Denver, when a search dog detected their bodies buried in the snow. The snowboarders and their dog were reported missing on Saturday when they didn't return from their outing. Summit County coroner identified the victims as a 25-year-old female and a 35-year-old man from Colorado Springs, and their dog's name was Valerie, was also found in the avalanche and deceased. So accidental death, blunt force trauma, and asphyxiation due to avalanche of snow and debris.
Yeah, that's awful.
So
that's a shame.
They had like 35 members of a volunteer rescue group out there that launched a search. Have you ever been on a search where they've had like an active dog helping out?
Oh yeah, many. Yeah, the one that comes to mind right off the bat is the search for the Dartmouth student. We had dogs.
Oh yeah,
all over that mountain looking around. Yeah, many times. Dogs are cool, man.
But you've never done you've never done an avalanche rescue, right?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Well, this one, I guess they use an avalanche rescue dog, and the dog was actually able to locate the snowshoers and their dog, and they were all completely buried. So I don't know how they train the dog to smell, but the dog must be able to like smell them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anybody's interested, do some research about New England Canine. They provide a lot of the canines for searches in the area, and they run one hell of an operation. I know they have a nice website up there, so you can check it out. And their dogs are beautiful. Okay. Oh,
yeah, I know. I want a dog. My wife has still not let me have one. It's bullshit. Anyway, so this next one brings us to Seattle again, another avalanche. So this is skiers. So a witness reported 6 skiers were swept up in an avalanche in the Silver Basin area in Crystal Mountain. They were backcountry skiing on Saturday. All 6 were wearing avalanche beacons and were quickly located. All of them were pulled out of the snow, but one person was not breathing. So this guy was in his 60s and unfortunately passed away. So the skiers went uphill. They triggered the snow slide in an area that wasn't mitigated for avalanches and wasn't open for ski season. So I don't know what that means, that they're going to get in trouble for being there or what the story is. I don't know what the rules are around the around when they open up mountains out there in the west, but they said it was pretty heavy winds there, and they triggered an avalanche. So, said around 150 people a year are killed on average in avalanches, with about 30 of those in the U.S. So, I think this episode has covered a bunch of them. So,
Yeah.
All right, you want to do these next two?
I don't even know if this one should be in here. It's a Russian death. I think it's some random. I think it's connected to industry rather than recreation. In Moscow, there was an avalanche at a mining company, and apparently there's question as to whether or not a worker was triggering the avalanche by dismantling a pipe at this coal mine, and provoked the avalanche. 2 workers got buried, 1 died. I guess it's in the mix because it's avalanche season. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be like a criminal court case.
Yes.
Because the safety, like basically Russians' version of OSHA is like they didn't follow the right safety regulations. So I don't know.
Yeah. There's a joke in there somewhere.
There definitely is. So, I can't believe you did. You put the boy in the well story in here. You can't put the boy in the well.
Well, you know what? I didn't know that he actually passed. When I read the story, he was rescued, and then I read the update, and my heart broke. I'm like, damn it! Oh, so you've been following this one?
I've been following this one, but I feel like the kid falling in the well is like a story that happens like consistently every 10 to 15 years
It's a total
around the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the same thing as the miners. Like there's always miners getting trapped and the whole world is watching. Like I feel like they alternate every 15 years or so. It's like either miners getting trapped or there's a kid that falls down like a little pipe or a well.
Yeah, you're right. But hey, a moment of silence for this little guy. What was it? 100 foot deep well that he fell into?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
And I guess they were trying to use heavy equipment to dig, side tunnels to get to this young boy he had, serious injuries, bodily injury, and survived for 3 or 4 days. And they were having difficulty because if they dug too close, they would trigger landslides. So it was a terrible situation. So my heart breaks for this little guy. That's always an awful story.
Oh, it's horrendous. Yeah. It's horrendous. I don't understand. What do these wells do? What's the purpose of them? Like, why is there a hole in the ground that a kid can fall into?
Yeah, awful. Race against time.
I don't understand that.
Yep.
So, all right. So let's at least end this with a positive story about a puppy being saved.
Yeah, you want to.
So I'll post this in the show notes.
This is a good one.
Is this guy blind? What's wrong with this? This puppy looks like a slow puppy.
He's just overwhelmed. He
looks blind. Anyway. All right. So I'll post a picture on this, but this looks like this dog is not opening his eyes. It's a Jack Russell Terrier mix named Millie. So next time someone tells you to lay off this is from Instagram. Next time someone tells you to lay off the sausage, you can simply remind them that sausage literally saves lives. A Jack Russell Terrier mix named Millie slipped out of her leash and ran off. Jack Russell Terriers sort of strike me as like, I don't know, they just seem like difficult and like headstrong dogs. I don't know why I think that.
Yeah, right. I know they are really cute though.
They are cute, yeah. So anyway, the dog panicked and it became trapped in nearby mud flats. I don't know what a mud flat is, but I guess it's mud. The dangerous terrain made it impossible for rescuers to reach Millie, and despite their best efforts, she remained stranded. So time was of the essence here. So the terrified terrier, as the tide was quickly rising, it became important to rescue her. So the rescuers had to get Millie to higher ground. Otherwise, she would be swept away by waves. So skittish and untrusting of the well-intentioned strangers, the dumb dog refused to tread close enough for them to reach her. So the rescuers concocted a plan to use a drone that they were using to track the dog, as well as a fragrant breakfast staple. So it was a crazy idea. This guy, Chris Taylor, who was chair of the Denme drone search and rescue team. Where is this? This sounds very British.
Yeah, I think it's from the UK. Doesn't really go into it, but
like yeah. So one of the local residents on the beach, they were flying
a drone.
They were flying a drone, and the local resident had sausages, and the woman cooked them up. She's like, "Let me cook this up for your drone," and they attached it to the drone with a string, and then using the steaming sausages bait, Millie was able to follow the drone, and the hungry hound briefly continued to evade capture following her sausage scramble, but eventually the owner got her, and the rescuers used this highly successful sausage system to save the dog, and they may use it again.
Yeah, see? Not sausage, a bad idea.
Oh, God. That was so bad.
The delivery on that was off. Not sausage, bad idea.
Yeah, that's not a good one. Not a good one. So
I never saw such a thing.
That was so bad. So anyway, but that's it. It's if you can't tell, it's slow on the search and rescue news.
Yeah. Not for long. Because
So
when is spring coming?
March. So we got another month and a half.
Dude, it's coming. Spring
It's coming,
meltdown, mud, and broken ankles, and you name it. It's coming. But surprisingly, it has been very, very uneventful.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
All right, so I got something we're gonna move on to, a little New Hampshire oddity or New Hampshire history here. So
Excellent.
I bought a new book based on Stomp's recommendation, Cruising New Hampshire History by Michael Bruno. I got to reach out to this guy and see if he'll come on the podcast, because I think it'd be interesting. But this is a book about all those green signs. So can you just talk about how cool New Hampshire is, by the way?
Right?
Like, there's no other state that has like such a, they just drop history everywhere.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat.
Yeah. Yeah, like Massachusetts has some cool stuff, like they have Sturbridge Village and the Plymouth Rock. And, in Boston, they have like a lot of cool stuff. But like New Hampshire, I love the green signs. I just love them.
Oh, yeah, they cover everything from just individuals to towns to bridges to everything. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly finding out new stuff. I had no idea about Camp Stark that we talked about before. I didn't know about this one either. So I had no idea that New Hampshire is right in the middle of the equator and the North Pole. So there is a green sign that marks the 45th parallel.
Gotcha.
So it says, as you stand at this point on the 45th parallel, you're halfway between the equator and the North Pole. So I had no idea that was...
So where's that location? Where is that sign?
It is in West Stewartson.
Huh.
And the sign was put in 1970.
Interesting.
Do you know where Stewartson is?
No, I'm not really sure.
Look, I think it's in the White Mountains, but I'm not sure. Or maybe it's got to be far north.
Possible, yeah. Lancaster area, maybe?
Yeah, it's got to be far north. Yeah, West Stewartstown. Yeah. It's way up there. Way up there, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the west, I mean. So, anyway, so as you stand at this point on the 45th parallel, you're halfway between the equator and the North Pole. So the territory which makes up Stewartstown was originally chartered by New Hampshire Governor John Wentworth in 1770, and then it was incorporated as Stewart in 1795, but the legality was challenged. And I guess it is... it's the northernmost incorporated town along the Connecticut River, and it was a pretty busy port for New Hampshire up there for a while. And, it marks the halfway point between the equator and the North Pole. So I think that's very cool. I had no idea that New Hampshire was like the midpoint.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. So I'll put that in the show notes, and just wanted to throw that out there and tell you that I didn't realize it, but we're at halfway.
That can be our summer adventure. Make it to the North Pole.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I want to let you go, Stomp. I know you're not feeling well. I appreciate you sticking it out.
Yeah, man. Getting there.
Yeah. I'll call this a wrap. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered on today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information on SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until next time, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hill!
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.